LFG, or Looking for Guardians, is a website, forum, or Discord used to find players for activities. Think of it like a raid finder from World of Warcraft, except the players have to search for each other. It's not in the game itself. LFG has become so popular and has had so many different implementations that Bungie even tried to make their own LFG in Destiny 2, and it failed, of course. Bungie, am I finding a game? I'm not finding a game, am I? I just want to raid, man. I'm gonna be here forever. I'm the only one in guided games. LFG in Destiny 1 was like the Wild West. If you didn't have a certain weapon, you weren't getting into a group. If you didn't have 365 Galahorn, you weren't getting into a group.
If you sounded like a little kid,
you weren't getting into a group. LFG has fostered so many different stories, and I hope you guys have some that you can leave in the comments, but one I want to focus on holds a distinctly positive note. The epic tale of an LFG team that won a world's first raid race. I guess I kind of ruined the story of how this raid came together, but it's more important to understand just how big of an accomplishment that really is. So in today's video, we'll explore how this happened, what this raid race consisted of, and my overall thoughts on this raid. So be sure to like the video, sub to the channel if you like the content. Let's try to get to 150k before Beyond Light on November 10th. Let's do it. Some footage in this video is from players around the community. Their links will be in the description of this video, as well as the music too. Before we explore this raid race, we must look at the DLC that was released on December 5th of 2017, Curse of Osiris. Curse of Osiris came with 8 story missions, a brand new destination called Mercury, which we were all looking forward to from Destiny 1's Lighthouse, 3 adventures, 2 strikes, 3 crucible maps, and 1 annoying public event, and a brand new raid lair. Notice how I said brand new raid lair instead of raid. More on that in a little bit. But Curse of Osiris was and always will be considered the worst time in Destiny 2. It was Eververse at its peak. It was the player base at its lowest, and it was the weakest amount of content we have ever received. There is no denying from anyone that this DLC was the lowest point in Destiny's history. But let's find out why.
Destiny 2, The Curse of Osiris, feels like the work of a company that is far more interested in booking its Q4 earnings than it is in salvaging the reputation of a developer who has produced some of the greatest video games ever made.
Let's find out how much time that'll take. We know that a bright engram costs $1.38, so that's only 7,506 bright engrams. I mean, 1.2 billion XP doesn't sound too bad. That's only 480,000 public events at 2,500 XP each. That's like 160,000 a year at roughly 5 minutes each. That's only 800,000 minutes per year. So if we start now and aim to finish by September of 2021, we just barely make it, finishing sometime near the beginning of April 2022. About 7 months too late. On the current path, the Destiny Killer has a familiar name, but one we least expected. The game that will kill Destiny is Destiny.
Eververse cost almost $10,000 to acquire every item, with very few ways to earn bright engrams. It felt like all of the content was being pushed straight into the Eververse, which kind of sounds like a season not too long ago. The DLC was basically one public event, which was the source of almost all exotics in the game, and an extremely dry story with little to no stakes. We knew Osiris was never actually in any trouble, and that Panoptes was a milquetoast Vex villain with no real motivation. The DLC and its story felt like the definition of a quick cash grab. It played off what our initial excitement about Mercury was going to be, without realizing why we cared about the destination at all. Don't even get me started on the Infinite Forest. Strikes and Crucible maps aside, because those are always fun to play, the rest of this DLC was tough to chew at the very least. I like to be as open and honest as I can with you guys, so I'm gonna say, I left the game at this time. I took a long break after this release, and I thought Destiny and its community were bound for the afterlife. I know that sounds harsh, but if you had been playing at this time, you knew what our beloved game had become. The saving grace of Destiny 2 was always, and is always, the raid. This time not a raid, but a raid layer. What does that even mean? What does a raid layer entail? It means that this was going to be a shorter raid, but with the same 6-player encounter design. Eater of Worlds was set to release on December 8th, 2017 at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, like most other raids would at 10 a.m. One thing was different though. The player base was not nearly as excited. Furthermore, they were skeptical of what this raid had to offer due to the dullness of the DLC. People were pessimistic going into it, and I think rightfully so. But that didn't stop teams from competing for the world's first completion. Actually, you could say that LFG was the most excited to race in this one. The night before the launch of Eater of Worlds, user Mikey posted on the PC LFG Discord asking for a group to join the raid layer the next morning. The group came together that way. Edward C4, Meowlight, Bran, TryHardJoe, and Sporkits24 all answered Mikey's call. The next morning, they were set to go. Your typical teams were also there, ready as ever. Redeem, Tier 1, Rare Drop, Math Class, and even the Legend himself were ready to go. Bear in mind that it took until Last Wish for Bungie to reward 24-hour emblems as well as a title belt for the team that came in first, so it was more of a community achievement at the time instead of having a couple of pieces of clout to show off. This LFG team was like David going up against multiple Goliaths. A team established just 8 hours before the raid layer's release versus powerhouse teams that have been racing since the start of Destiny 1. With all of that out of the way, the stakes established, and even more to come, let's talk about Eater of Worlds, the first ever raid layer. I want to welcome you back to the Leviathan, a place that held such mystery for the community as a whole. Speaking of mystery, we all wondered what the Leviathan held in the underbelly. If you watch my Leviathan raid video, then you know I wanted an encounter in the underbelly with a full boss down there. Looking back, I sort of wonder if this raid layer was originally intended to be a singular encounter, just part of Leviathan's raid as a whole, but was cut due to the lack of content Curse of Osiris had to offer. Maybe not even the lack of content in Curse of Osiris, but maybe more of a saving grace. So let's just go back into this raid layer. From what Mikey told me, there was almost no prep going into this, for any of them. The most amount of prep that the team did was to complete a Castellum moments before the raid launched. Edward C4, another Guardian from the world's first team, says that his prep was simple. Have one of every class ready on day 1 to raid. For other teams, it was about the same. Some brought in new weapons from Curse of Osiris, but these were also mixed with older weapons from previous content. Older weapons included Sins of the Past, a rocket launcher from Levy which we covered, as well as Midnight Coup from Levy. The first encounter was the Steps, or as I like to call it, the Canadian conga line, because you have to be real polite about who goes where and who is first. This encounter was simple but caused some trouble for the world's first team. Actually, so much trouble that it was their biggest struggle during the race. One person stood on a platform and it would raise another one up. The first person would move forward to the newest platform and another player would replace them on the previous, and towards the end of the section, a reactor would overheat so you would all just rush to the next checkpoint. Look, I'm gonna be straight up with you guys. This encounter is literally jump plate to plate and wait until the next plate rises. It's super boring and there's about as much creativity as a Jurassic Park remake here, but it is what it is. The encounter looks tremendous, but that's about it. It's more of a game of Frogger where you have to wait for the platforms to raise up. Oh my god, it's here. Oh my god. Guys, you are not ready for this next encounter. It's such an enthralling encounter. The biggest brains came together to conceive this Picasso level thought piece.
I think the splitting up is a good idea.
We're gonna go through this platform I'm standing on. I can tell.
Or 3 ships this time. 3 ships.
Oh, Colossus is.
Hide from these, and use your supers and shit.
Oh, what's happening?
Perhaps you'd like to solve our mystery.
I'm moving over to the.
Oh, Jess is here. We did it.
Yeah! Wow! We did a strike!
One down.
We did a strike!
Once you finished slaying ads, all you had to do was claim your loot and jump down into the place where shit hits the fan. Wait, that was an encounter? Yep, that's an encounter. Just clear ads. That's it. That's it. Once down the fan, the task was simple. Make it across the Linus Tech Tips workshop and be sure to ground yourself as you go along. Then get shot through the James Bond intro pistol and yeet through the rings like you're all Sonic and you're trying to get a secret chest. Something cool to note here is that we are in the mouth of the Leviathan, and in this area it looks like a chunk of Nessus that has been consumed, because it has. You'll see platforms, plant life, and a rock formation towards the bottom. So I want to welcome you to the stomach of the Leviathan. The first encounter was to break whatever the hell that crystal thing in the rock was out. This was simple, not unlike the rest of the raid. Shake up some Vex Craniums in 3 different flavors around the Gamer Subs Arena, code Evan and checkout, the Blue Raz, the Mango Meta, and the Watermelon Ice. And once they're done being shaken, shoot them at the rock candy that matches the flavor on whatever side it is before it explodes. On day 1, all of this came down to coordination with knowing which side needed what, and the communication to shake the craniums and have one of each flavor at all times. The teams felt like this encounter was pretty fun. It was a unique experience using the G-Sub shakers for the first time. This bit is so stupid. That aside though, this encounter was really just the prep for what our final boss would be.
So that's the last one? Last void?
And then we're
Okay.
gonna have the boss fight.
Then I guess we're gonna do something else. Shoot it.
Boss fight.
Well, I'll carry this cranium just in
Hey,
case.
that was it!
Wait. There's something inside.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope, we're done, I think. Nope,
Oh,
we're
shit,
done.
we did it. Nice. I got Vessel.
Alright, where we go now? Or, well,
Where's the
what's
chest?
down?
Show us. I think it looks garbage.
Once you got your loot, get ready to meet Argos, Planetary Core.
Oh, there's 3 encounters, because we're 66% done with clean sweep. So we got 1 more and that's it.
Yeah, but where is it?
I know, okay, so
Look around. Something to shoot at, maybe?
grab all the craniums again, maybe? I've got one over here.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, hello.
It auto started. Oh,
Oh.
what the f is
Oh,
this?
One on each side. We just gotta get him to start a counter.
The Templar!
It's a Templar.
Fucking terrifying Hydra. Oh, okay. Okay.
Destroy Argos.
The stomach ache of the Leviathan, and one of my personal favorite raid bosses. The rest of this raid just sucked ass until Argos, who was the savior that didn't actually manage to fully save the raid. According to the world's first team, Argos on day 1 was their favorite encounter. Obviously, it was the G-Subs encounter, but with just some extra steps to it. The encounter was as simple as shaking up the craniums again, but shooting 3 individually flavored orbs simultaneously. Once that was done, it was simple as doing damage, roast the boss. Damage on day 1 was not as easy as it is now. Argos had void cannons that we didn't know how to shoot off. Harpies spawned like crazy, obscuring the vision of the boss. Argos shot out a net that caught many players and flew them away to their inevitable deaths. And Argos had that tongue, which did nothing. Day 1, a lot of teams struggled to learn Argos' stun mechanic. This was as simple as shooting 2 glowing white spots on Argos, shoulders, back, arms, and head, and start another prep phase for damage. A lot of people thought that this was another damage phase rather than a stun phase, and this led to a lot of confusion with how short this raid was, because it caused a lot of teams to actually wipe here. This led to a lot of confusion, and with how short this raid was, it caused a lot of teams to lose the world's first race right there.
Yeah, shoot. Let's just go, let's go, let's go.
Right, other arm, go.
Will you mantle? Oh my god.
It's okay, shoot it and then we'll get him up. He keeps moving.
No.
God.
That was messy.
Okay,
Head,
so the shoulder
Head,
blades,
shoulders, arms.
Yeah, top down, top down.
Top
That
down.
second,
Head,
that second set of damage
shoulders,
is a lot
arms.
better.
One team didn't struggle. One team figured out the stun mechanic first.
All right, so
I've
we
got solar.
we can do the damage phase
Who's
now.
got void? Let's go. Yeah,
I
let's go.
I have it. Mike's
Alright.
bringing, or yeah.
3,
2.
3, 2, 1, go. All right, middle. Come on, kill him.
Oh, alright. Yes. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
Suicide.
Yes. Yes.
What?
Res them.
No, it's done. There's no timer.
Wait for the challenge.
Keep shooting him.
No, we're done.
Nice.
Yes.
What time is it? What time
Yes!
is it? 2:36.
Oh, it brought us back here.
We did it.
Woo!
2:36. Did they beat it? Go to Twitch.
The LFG team that came together mere hours before this raid launched had done the unthinkable. They beat the Goliaths of the community. In only an hour and 34 minutes, it was over. This sent shockwaves through the entire Destiny community, even reaching beyond it. This was the highest point of the lowest moment in Destiny 2. I want to give full credit to the team that pulled it off, because of course they pulled off something miraculous by getting a world's first. That is not easy, and there's a lot of teamwork involved. But even they agreed with me that this raid is a joke compared to every other raid that has come before it and after it. Mikey went on record to say that this raid has a lot of challenge with 1 or 2 people, but not with much more. What did you think of this raid layer though? Does it do anything for you? Is there anything that stands out? Anything that you hated? Anything that you loved? Let me know in the comments. One thing I'd like to add, which Edward C4 also agreed with me on, is that this raid does not connect to the rest of its DLC at all outside of the Vex existing in it. But let's see what Prestige Mode had to offer, because maybe there's something new here. Well, there's not much new in Prestige Mode. Prestige Mode came with some modifiers and locked loadouts that no one asked for. Giggs, Eon, Chevy, Fambi, Gooey, and Bopties the Defiled beat this mode in 23 minutes and 31 seconds. And Prestige Mode was over just like that, since they're more like speedruns and less of a world's first brand new experience. But one thing that stuck out in Prestige Mode were the modifiers such as Prism, where a buff on a rotation increased a single elemental damage type by a huge amount, and there were loadout requirements where you couldn't use anything actually good. You know what? You get the point. There were modifiers, there were locked loadouts. I don't hate the idea, I hate how they executed it, since freedom and nuance were taken away. Prestige didn't really add anything except for some extra health on enemies, the shields, the crystals, and maybe Argos. In terms of loot, I would do a whole section, but there really wasn't much. There was a brand new introduction of Catalyst to Destiny 2 with Telesto Catalyst, one of the worst in the game, Eater of Worlds weapons? There was a shotgun, Zenith of Your Kind. I remember that one. There was a grenade launcher, I Am Alive. The shotgun was a void rapid fire frame that went into your heavy slot in year 1. Go figure. The I Am Alive grenade launcher, which also went into your heavy slot, was a void 120 RPM that was decent, I guess. Both shared the fact that they had auto-loading holster. And that was really it for your weapons. But more importantly, the gear looked something straight out of the Onion Knight from Dark Souls. But actually, okay, no, that's perfect. Let's just wrap this up. Curse of Osiris was a major disappointment, but what the community made of it was actually something special. An LFG team did what no LFG team has ever been able to do before or after it. They beat the raid layer first. And I think that should give anybody using LFG hope to actually find a new, positive cadence with a group. Yeah, there were also some great challenges done, like the first ever solo Destiny 2 raid boss later into that year, which we'll save for another video down the line. This raid felt like it was supposed to be a part of the Leviathan, but was stripped away due to the lack of content during Curse of Osiris, or the lack of quality content. I wonder if Bungie regretted even making this, since a lot of people don't like it and it feels very out of character from a raid from Bungie. I want to leave off with this. Argos as a boss itself and the design of the raid looks tremendous. Unfortunately, the DLC did not manage to build a pedestal upon which Eater of Worlds could shine. However, the next raid layer would surpass its predecessors in every way imaginable. But we'll have to save that for the next video. If you did enjoy this video, a like would be greatly appreciated, as well as a subscription. If you'd like to tell me what you liked, disliked, whatever, anything Destiny, anything gaming, seriously anything, come by my Twitch and all my socials, even my Discord. Anyways, everybody, until next time, I will see you later. Here's to 150k subs on YouTube.
Fuck, man. Oh, shit. That's my bad, dude. I was shooting it wrong.
And then you get to level 7.
Yes!
What was that?
Kevin! What the f was that?
You guys know what I mean?
Yeah. What the f?
I don't know how you did it, but
There you go.
I'm glad.
Bam.
We're gonna need it. There are a lot more
There's so many
survivors.
debaters.
Oh god! Oh god, Bird! Oh! Oh no!
I sent a friend into the EDZ a few hours ago.
Oh!
Network.
He's having a seizure.
His name's
Help
Devlin
him.
K. Good guy. Great shot. Tell him I said that. If you give him a hand, I take it as a compliment.